Wall Street rallies for the fourth straight day as the producer price index shows signs of inflation easing. Indices are on track for a winning week. Meanwhile, Disney CEO Bob Iger tells CNBC TV 18 that TV assets may soon be sold as they're open to finding a strategic partner for their ESPN business. Asian markets rise on a positive handover from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty T2 indicates a higher start for the Indian market. Wipro's constant currency revenue declines nearly 3% in a weak first quarter, in line with the CNBC TV 18 poll. The company guides for tepid revenue growth in Q2 as well and warns of another contraction going ahead. And Prime Minister Modi reaches France as the guest of honor for its National Day parade, announces that the two countries have reached an agreement to introduce UPI in France. The Defense Acquisition Council has also cleared the purchase of 26 Rafale jets and 3 submarines for the Navy. The deal will officially be announced during the Prime Minister's visit. The overflowing Yamuna batters Delhi after breaching a record high. Schools and colleges in the national capital and Noida remain shut. 60 NDRF teams are deployed for rescue operations as more rains are forecast for Delhi. Hey guys, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the headlines that we have for you this morning. Once again, we're getting a good handover from Wall Street. This is actually the fourth straight day of gains that we are seeing coming through, and that is reflecting in the Asian markets. So most of them, I'm going to say all barring just the Japanese markets, are well in the green today. So the Hang Seng, like you can see, is up 100 points. The Taiwanese index seeing, again, similar gain of around 0.6%. And whichever Asian market you look at, so, the likes of Kospi are doing even better. That one is up 1.2%. You have the Shanghai market, which is absolutely flat right now. Straits also holding up with, a near 0.5% gain right now. So definitely a good start for most of the Asian markets, although they have come off a little bit in the past few minutes. The GIFT Nifty will come up for you, and it is indicating that the start for our own markets will be in the green. Around 47 points higher is where we're at on the GIFT Nifty. Remember, we did see a pullback towards the end of the trading session yesterday. It suggests that the start will be open, but let's see where we can really move, because we have been facing a little bit of resistance around that 19,500 mark. So that's what's really going on in Asia. But let's also talk about the US market now, because Wall Street ended Thursday's trading session higher. So we saw the Dow up around 48 points. The S&P 500 was up 37, and the Nasdaq was the big outperformer. It saw a move of over 1.5%. Now, the market actually reacted positively to more indications of inflation easing, as producer prices barely saw a rise in June at all. So the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq closed at their highest levels in over a year. And, all of these indices are on track, of course, for a good week. CNBC's Contessa Brewer is here to get us a wrap of all of the action that came through on Wall Street.
Markets ending higher after another key inflation reading came in lighter than expected. The Dow tacked on about 47 points, the S&P up 0.85%, and the Nasdaq gained almost 220 points. Delta reported record quarterly earnings and revenue today amid strong international travel demand and falling fuel prices. And at an opportune time, airlines are looking to capitalize on the air travel rebound over the summer. CEO Ed Bastian told CNBC he expects consumers' desire for travel will fuel bookings for years. And Amazon shares are rising as the e-commerce giant said its Prime Day was the biggest ever. Online sales climbing to $12.7 billion, according to Adobe Analytics. The company said shoppers purchased more than 375 million items during this year's Prime Day. That's up from 300 million last year. And Amazon called the first 24 hours of Prime Day the single largest sales day in company history. That's what's happening here in the U.S. I'll send it back to you in Mumbai.
All right, Contessa, thanks a lot for getting us all of that action. Let's also bring you some important opinion. This comes in from San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly. Listen in to what she had to say.
It's really too early to say that we declare a victory on inflation. This month of data is very positive. I hope it's part of a downward trend in inflation, but I am in a wait and see mode on that because I remain resolute to bring inflation down to 2%.
Okay, that is an important word coming in. But with that, some more news. Disney has given CEO Bob Iger 2 more years to find his successor. So his contract has been extended till the end of 2026. And in an interview with CNBC, Iger said he's open to selling the television assets, which include ESPN, ABC, as well as Star India, saying that it may not be core to the company's future. He also said that they are open to finding a strategic partner for the ESPN business. Listen in.
Let's talk about sports first, which obviously that's ESPN. If you look at today's media landscape, sports stands very, very tall in terms of its ability to convene millions and millions of people all at once. There's almost a guarantee that that occurs. It's an advertiser's dream. There's a great demographic there. It lends itself to technology in many ways, both in terms of coverage, distribution, and consumption. And our position in that business is very unique. We have a great brand. We've had a great business. And we want to stay in that business. That said, we're going to be open-minded there, too, not necessarily about spinning ESPN off, but about looking for strategic partners that could either help us with distribution or content, but we want to stay in the sports business.
What would a strategic partner look like with distribution or content then for ESPN?
Well, I think you could, again, I'm not going to get too detailed about it, but we're bullish about sports in general as a media property. There is an inevitability, by the way, you raised it, to taking ESPN and direct to consumer.
Yeah.
We haven't said when, but we do know that it will happen.
Is it sooner than you had thought, let's even say 7 months ago?
No, I think I'm much more certain about when, but not prepared to say when that is. I won't say whether it's sooner or not, but I'm enthusiastic about it.
Okay, that is the word coming in from Disney CEO Bob Iger, and that's everything that we're looking at globally. But let's now talk about how all of these cues really impact us, as well as all of the important domestic cues that came through. Our research team is here to prep you up for the final trading session this week. We have Nigel, Vivek and Surbhi all now with the trade set up. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. Vivek, coming to you now. You know, the global markets all through this week have really lent us quite the supporting hand.
Well, absolutely right. You know, even today, the handover has been very strong. Like you mentioned, you know, the U.S. markets ending in the green, Nasdaq at the highest level since April 2022. European markets 200 with quite strong gains. In fact, DAX up almost 0.7%. However, crude oil prices, you know, they continue to gain traction and now at a 3-month high. So Brent futures now is trading well above the $80 a barrel mark, 81.36 where it closed yesterday. However, coming to the Indian markets, a bit of worry, you know, last couple of trading sessions, what we've seen is that in the last hour of the trading session, we are seeing significant selling pressure. So yesterday's gains were, you know, almost entirely wiped out. So Nifty closing near the flat line after the sell-off that we saw in the last hour of the trading session. Banking stocks once again underperformed. And surprisingly, you know, the Nifty IT index was one of the top gainers despite the muted set of results from TCS as well as HCL Tech. TCS, in fact, amongst the top gainers. Even the metal pack did very well, lending support as far as the market action was concerned, as well as the breadth. This was on account of the stimulus expected from the China. Now, when you're talking about the broader markets breadth was largely in favor of declines yesterday. And again, that will be one important factor to watch out for going ahead. In terms of results reactions, watch out for the result reaction from Wipro. The company delivered its results yesterday. Today, one important number to keep an eye out for would be Bandhan Bank, as well as some of the other mid-cap companies too would be delivering their results today.
All right, Vivek, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues. Let's talk about the individual stocks as well. Surbhi is here with that list. And Surbhi, like Vivek was pointing out, the key number yesterday was Wipro.
That's correct. So Wipro firstly reported a weak set of numbers. It was in line with the muted expectations. The constant currency revenue growth was down nearly 2.8% versus a guidance of -1% to -3%. Next on my radar is Angel One. It was an operationally strong quarter, but profitability was impacted due to a one-off expense in employee expense. The revenue was down nearly 2% sequentially. PAT was down 17% sequentially. Tata Metallics, the revenue was down 2.5% on a year-on-year basis. Margins came in at 5.4% versus 3.6% same time last year. Patanjali Foods, the company is not going to exercise the green shoe option for the OFS issue. They will go ahead with just the base issue. Spark is also on my radar. US FDA issues a complete response letter for the new drug application for the drug under development PDP 716. And lastly, GMR Power is also on my radar. The company's got an order to install and maintain nearly 76 lakh smart meters in Uttar Pradesh.
All right, Surbhi, thanks a lot for taking us through all of that stock-specific action. Let's talk about all of the cues from the futures and options space. Nigel is here with exactly that. Nigel, we were just talking about this earlier, that towards the end of the trading session, we saw a bulk of the gains wiped out. How's it looking this morning?
Well, morning, Pavitra. You know, what you also said was that the dollar index is weaker, and I think that's a big positive from a global standpoint and from an emerging market perspective. The cooling off of the dollar index, well, that's going to hold us in good stead. So that's a positive. Moving to the point that you made, right? The Nifty, it appears we're afraid of heights because at higher levels, the Nifty gets a little bit jittery. Can we end this week conquering the 19,500 odd mark. In 5 out of the last 6 sessions, well, we have gone there, but we can't hold it. And the next place should come up for you. Every time we have gone to that level, but we have come off anything between 80 to around 150 points or thereabouts. Will today be the day? The bulls will be hoping so. The FIs, well, after a while, they added short positions, closer on 10,000 short contracts, and I like that. I want more shorts in the system. If there is any kind of good news, then we'll see a bit of a short covering bounce, and this market was devoid of any kind of shorts. In terms of positioning, well, you have long positions still at around 69% odd. I'd like that number to come down a little bit. Remember, when it went to the mid-70s odd, a bit of, complacency was coming about from the bullish perspective. Two strikes I'm highlighting, 19,500 call and 19,500 put. Given that the 19,500 put, well, that is still very active at premiums around 125 rupees approximately. Gives you your first stop loss, 19,375 odd. But if it's a short straddle in place, that is, you write the 19,500 call as well as put, you pocket closer on 200 rupees odd, then the important support zone will be 19,300, 19,375. On the upside, we face resistance at around 19,550, so that's going to be important. The implied opening is a positive start to the tune of around 40-50 points odd. Let's see if we can hold on to that. But will today be the day when we go past the 19,500, or does the Nifty want to consolidate for a little longer? Well, time will tell. Back to you.
All right, let's wait by and see if that happens. Nigel, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. We do need to get into a short break, but on the side, like we told you, Wipro reported a weak set of Q1 earnings. We're going to get you the fine print as well as some management commentary when we come back. Welcome back. Let's talk about the big earning that came through yesterday. This is, the Wipro, which posted a weak set of first quarter earnings, like we were pointing out, pretty much in line with what the poll suggested as well. So the constant currency revenue growth contracted by 2.8% on a sequential basis. This is, remember, the lower end of the company's own guidance. In fact, it is worse than the figures that were reported by its large cap peers as well. So weaker than what TCS and HCL Tech posted. And their guidance also shows weakness will persist for constant currency revenue, at least in the near term. For Wipro, we have seen the margin also came down, so it's down by around 25 basis points. However, one positive in the results was that deal wins continue to be robust in line with peers. So we saw similar, moves come through for HCL as well as TCS as well. The biggest miss, however, for Wipro this time around was the headcount, where the company's actually seen a big contraction in Q1. There you have it on your screen. So you can see the headcount has slipped sharply. But we also spoke to the management on key demand trends as well as the outlook on margins going forward. So listen in to what they had to tell us.
The reality is that, we continue to have a market where there's a demand for technology, where we have deals, where we actually sign more large deals than we used to sign in the past, and also a market where there's a reduction of discretionary spend across industries, in my mind. Now, with some industry probably more impacted than others, the banking, financial services sector, the communication sector, the technology industry, certainly. So I'm not sure, Rima, I would necessarily say that the market is worsening. I think we continue to be in this market where there's a certain level of uncertainty that drives some of the behaviors of our clients to be a little bit cautious when it comes to discretionary spend.
It was operational improvement that drove the margin performance, where we kept margin very stable even when we had a certain amount of softness in the revenue, and in fact improved utilization, improved overall execution of our projects, and so on and so forth. So we do have sufficient levers that one can continue to engage in to deliver a stable performance around the range that we operate in.
All right, that is the management of Wipro. But with that, let's also move on to an exclusive story. Sources are telling us that the government is likely to include international credit cards under the LRS scheme only once banking systems are ready, with the rollout now likely to take place after the 1st of October. So Sapna is here with all of the details on this one. Sapna, what are you picking up?
What we are going to understand very clearly from sources is the fact that the government's earlier decision to not include, or rather to postpone the inclusion of overseas credit cards into the LRS and hence not to levy the TCS, it's not an indefinite postponement. So credit cards at some point in time are definitely going to be a part of the liberalized remittance scheme reporting, and also a TCS will be levied. The government's basic intent over here is very clear. The issue is just this much, that especially the credit card networks and NBFCs also need time to upgrade their IT systems. And that time limit may be longer than October 1. October 1 is a normal timeline for the higher TCS rate to kick in for other modes of payment. So it could be a longer timeline than October 1, but the basic intent over here is very clear, that credit cards for overseas spend will be included into LRS, and there will be a TCS on that. That's one. Second, in terms of the credit card networks, well, MasterCard, Visa, RuPay, Amex, Diners Club, all of them are having to work on this front, along with the non-banking financial companies, which are still not up to speed on this matter. Banks and authorized dealers are relatively in a better position, but this is where the issue lies, and once that's resolved, government will take a call on the implementation date.
All right, Sapna, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on this one. Moving on, let me also quickly get you a check on the crude oil prices, because there's been quite a move there. Oil prices rose to a 3-month high as more economic data points to inflation cooling off in the U.S. So crude is currently trading at around $81 a barrel. Meanwhile, OPEC has also raised its demand forecast by 1 lakh barrels per day to 2.4 million barrels per day. And in fact, OPEC sees oil demand in 2024 also rising to over 2 million barrels per day. So all of this has crude up and about, and it is at $81.5 a barrel. So that is an important update we wanted to bring you. But with that, it is time for another break. When we come back, we're going to track all of the important national news stories from the floods in the national capital to the launch of the Chandrayaan. We'll get you all of that in just a bit. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's bring you some weather updates now. The national capital continues to be one of the worst affected as the Yamuna River in Delhi swells, breaching record levels which we last saw in 1978. Delhi is also likely to face a drinking water deficit after 3 water purification facilities were shut down in the city. The admission of heavy vehicles into the city from 4 borders, including Seng, was also prohibited by the local authorities, of course, with the exception of those transporting key essentials. So that is an important update on the weather situation. We'll, of course, keep bringing you more on that. But something else that we're tracking is that Prime Minister Modi's visit to France got underway last evening after he was invited to be the guest of honor at the country's National Day Parade celebrations. Last evening, the Prime Minister also addressed the Indian community at Paris and announced the 2 countries had reached an agreement to allow the use of UPI in France, enhancing payment options for Indian travellers. The Prime Minister was also awarded the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honour, the highest civilian and military honour in France. And today, Prime Minister Modi will attend the Bastille Day celebration parade, which will be followed by delegation-level talks and press statements. The announcement on defence deals between the country for the purchase of Rafale jets as well as Scorpion submarines for the Indian Navy is also likely to be announced during Prime Minister's trip. Okay, so that's what we're looking at as far as the Prime Minister's France visit goes. But some more important news. India's much-anticipated third venture to the moon, the landmark Chandrayaan-3, is slated to lift off in just a few hours. That is this afternoon from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. In an address, ISRO Chairman S. Somnath said that the launch, if successful, is scheduled to reach the moon by the 23rd or 24th of August. Now, the Chandrayaan-3 will be a follow of ISRO's unsuccessful endeavour 4 years ago, the Chandrayaan-2. However, unlike its predecessor that carried an orbiter as well, the Chandrayaan-3 will only consist of 3 modules, a propulsion lander and a rover has also been built on the budget of 615 crore rupees. To give you some context, that's around 1/4 of the latest Mission Impossible movie made at a cost of nearly 2,400 crore rupees. All right, so that is everything that we're tracking on the national front. With that, we do need to wind down on this edition of Power Breakfast with the news that the global markets look positive. The GIFT Nifty also indicates a good start. Thanks for tuning into Power Breakfast. We have Bazaar Morning Call up into.